of Birmingham that was still segregated. And so it is painful. But if you forget your history, then you are likely to repeat it. I have students who were not born when the Soviet Union collapsed. And they're maybe not going to remember that in the way that there was once this thing called the Soviet Union. Nobody is alive today who remembers the Civil War. You don't have to honor the purposes of people whose history now shows that they were on the other side of history. But you better be able to remind people. And so I myself am not much for whitewashing history. I don't like the renamings. I don't like the taking down the various monuments. Historical figures, we need to remember who they are, what they stood for, and why we moved on.
Thank you, Commissioners. That was Condoleezza Rice speaking in favor of keeping history visible in our lives and public spaces, not erasing it. Let's do as she would approve. Pass the countywide Veterans Memorial Protection Ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. McAllister. Next, we have Terrence Wolf.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. My name is Terrence Wolf, and I live at 3411 East 22nd Avenue in Tampa. I am in favor of the removal from display on public lands of the Confederate Soldiers Monument. This divisive and controversial memento ought never have been placed upon public property in the first instance. Its removal would be of profound benefit to the county, harming no one's legitimate interests. The very conversation we are having here today shows that, in some respects, Hillsborough County and Tampa have yet fully to leave the darker areas of their past behind. The monument is deeply offensive to anyone who knows how to decode its various messages. You cannot glorify a cause without glorifying the essential practices that cause existed to defend. The monument is an adoring tribute to the defense of a practice that was inevitably and objectively evil and which cast a stain upon the country from its inception, a stain from which reasonable people continue to recoil. That stain, of course, is the stain of slavery. I am opposed to elevating even the memory of this central purpose of the Confederacy to any station of nobility. There was nothing noble about a secessionist insurrection that tore the country apart and shed the blood of hundreds of thousands of Americans. There never was, nor could there ever possibly be, anything noble about a culture founded upon the enslavement of a people for the benefit, enrichment, and comfort of another. And the erection of these monuments, littered across the South in the early years of the 20th century, was just another part of Jim Crow, intended to communicate the message that, though the black man had been freed, he would never be equal. White supremacy was the message of these monuments when they were created, and it remains their message today, loudly proclaimed as government speech. How many of you wish to go down in history as preservers and champions of such a message? To paraphrase our former President, Ronald Reagan, Mr. Chairman, tear down this monument. Thank you.
Next, we have Kevin Wright. I'm going to ask Morris Kennedy, Maria Jose Chapa, and Pamela Gomez to be ready next.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Kevin Wright. My address is 1100 North 50th Street, 33619. I stand in dignity for the past county commission that approved this monument and helped to erect it. It was erected with the purpose of binding up the wounds of war. It's a monument of peace. It's a monument of reconciliation. There's nothing about this monument that says anything in glorification of slavery. Those who are trying to read that into this at this date do it strictly for partisan political purposes of their own making. The United Daughters of the Confederacy is not a war organization. They've always been about family, and they don't make war. They make quilts. So I would ask that you stand in solidarity with the original intention of what was put forth by the Board of County Commission back in 1911. It was a memorial for eternity. It was to say that never again should the citizens of Florida make war on the citizens of New York or some state against another state. This is a monument of peace, reconciliation, and unity for America, and a surrender to the idea that somehow our state can make war on another state. So with that, I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Morris Kennedy.
Good morning, Commissioners. Morris Kennedy, 610 South Newport Avenue, Tampa, Florida. I'm the great-grandson of a Confederate veteran. That's part of my heritage. But that heritage involves far more than battlefield valor. The South's way of life was built upon the foundation of slavery and white supremacy. After the war, a reign of terror imposed a new form of bondage on black citizens liberated by that war. You need not look further than right around here for evidence of what resulted from this. I grew up in Central Florida during segregation, and it was plain in retrospect that my family did not live in America. We lived in the land of cotton, a despotic country within a country that was the embodiment of Confederate values. White supremacy poisoned every aspect of life. The right to vote, the right to get a decent education, the right to get a good job, to buy a house where you liked instead of in some segregated part of town, the right to just walk down the street unmolested. All of that was denied to black people where I grew up and throughout the South. And they had no recourse because the courts were infested with bigots and Klansmen. So moving this memorial will only be a gesture, but it's a long overdue gesture. In doing so, you'll say loudly and clearly that Hillsborough County is a place where all people are equal under the law. I urge you to do this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Maria Jose Chapa.
Good morning, Board of County Commissioners. I'd like to remind the Board of County Commissioners and the audience that we're in 2017, we're not in 1911. The Board of County Commissioners in 1911 were memorializing the Confederacy, which was not something that was patriotic. It was treasonous, and they wanted to secede from the nation. And just want to read to you what the definition of a monument is. A statue, building, or other structure erected to commemorate a famous or notable person or event. A statue or other structure placed over a grave in memory of the dead. A building, structure, or site that is of historical importance or interest. And then further translation, it says an outstanding, enduring, and memorable example of something. I'm sorry, but the Confederacy in no way was outstanding or a memorable example of anything but white supremacy in this country and slavery. We're not asking to erase history, we're asking you to write history by a gesture of removing something that is hateful and equivalent to Nazi Germany. So people who hang on to symbols of hate, I see some people in the background wearing t-shirts with White Cross insignias. Those are insignias of the Klan, the KKK, white nationalist groups, white supremacy. If you want to talk about healing, healing is first addressing the issue. It's like an alcoholic. An alcoholic never recognizes that they have a problem, and they don't think they have a problem. The first thing to recognize the problem is to say, hey, I'm actually an alcoholic. So recognizing that the history of the Confederacy was on the wrong side of history and morality needs to be recognized, needs to be internalized. We're not asking to erase history. We're asking you to make history right and to tell and depict history, the truth, which the Confederacy and their economy was built on the backs of black Americans in this country, and still they have not received reparations.
Thank you. Next we have Pamela Gomez, and I'm going to ask Gerald White, Mark Rodriguez, and Dana Lazarus to be ready next. Good morning.
Good morning, board members of the Board of County Commission, and everybody else present. What can I say? As Maria Jose, who was before me, said, it's 2017, and to me it's really sickening. As a resident of this county and someone who's actively involved in bettering our community, that we're here picking this kind of fight in this day and time. As someone who looks forward to having a family someday here, I definitely don't want my children, and it's not fair to a young person like myself that I have to pass across, or anyone, a member of our community who is black, who feels in the same ways as I do, that a symbol of hate, of oppression, stands in front of a courthouse that's supposed to be a place that we go for justice matters, the complete opposite. As we heard before, a gentleman said, our lives matter. That's not the case. As we just saw an assault happen right in front of our eyes to one of our, a dear friend of mine, that the police officer and also the staff member of the club went directly and did not address that my friend had just been assaulted. So it tells you that if we can sit before you and you can witness things like this, our lives don't matter. And when you have symbols of hate and this type of evil-sided patriotism and nationalism that at the end of the day divides our community and separates us from really working on the issues that deem of highly importance, it tells you a lot. So I'm very disheartening that this is the type of things that we have to stand before you to address, because we should be focusing on more important issues like the lack of education, like the violence in our communities, and really target the issues, not have to stand before you to take down, to tell you to do what's right and take out a symbol of hate.
Thank you.
Ma'am, please state your name and address for the record.
Pamela Gomez, 1511 West Broad Street, Tampa, Florida, 33604.
Thank you. Next we have Gerald White.
First, good morning, Commissioner Gerald White, Hillsborough County Community Activist. First, I wanted to congratulate the Sheriff of Hillsborough County, David G., on his retirement, and I want all the citizens of Hillsborough County to concentrate and think about the replacement of the sheriff. It's one of the most important, if not the important position here in Hillsborough County. And I just want the sheriff to know we are extremely proud of his service as Sheriff of Hillsborough County, and as African American, we're grateful for his service. I'm also here on the memorial. The memorial never should have been put there. Black folks didn't have a chance to vote, to have a voice for that memorial to be put there. It should be moved. It is in the wrong place. You got to walk past this Confederate memorial to seek justice. That is absolutely unequivocally wrong. The black people, the African American citizens of Hillsborough County, want that memorial removed. It is a disgrace to who we are as a people, all of us, black, white, Jew, Gentile, Protestant, Catholic. Put it where it belongs, in a museum somewhere. Take it from in front of where we have to seek one of the most precious gifts we have as Americans, that's justice. I beg you, I plead with you to remove the memorial. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Next we have Mark Rodriguez.
Morning, Commissioners. Thanks for having us today. Mark Rodriguez, 5126 North Florida, 33603. I'm a person of Portuguese descent. That's my background. My grandfather and my parents were colonial settlers in Angola. I don't go around waving the flag of Portuguese Angola or apartheid South Africa. I don't go around celebrating or honoring that part of my heritage, even though it is part of my heritage. What's wrong is wrong, is wrong, is wrong, no matter who did it. If it was your family, your great-grandfather, your heritage, your background, your country, whatever. Wrong is wrong, and having that monument on public property in front of a courthouse, where, as the previous speaker said, people are arriving at that courthouse expecting equal treatment and justice and fairness under the law, and to see the county giving tacit approval to that message on public property with a monument that is maintained with taxpayer dollars is just completely wrong, and I think that monument needs to come down. The monument was put there in 1911, just a few short years after the novel that the film Birth of a Nation was based on was published, and just a few short years before that film came out. So we all know the historical context of why that monument was put there in 1911 and what that meant in terms of the white racist backlash to Reconstruction and to newly freed African American citizens of this country. And a matter of fact, when the monument was dedicated, the keynote speaker said, "The South stands ready to welcome all good citizens who seek to make their homes within her borders, but we detest and despise all, it matters not from where they came, who in any manner encourage social equality with an ignorant and inferior race." And that was the keynote speaker on the day they dedicated that monument. So I ask you respectfully that we take it down from public property. It has no place in 2017.
Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Next, we have Dana Lazarus, and I'm going to ask Russell Denton, Devon Shivas, and Andy Strickland to be ready. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Dana Lazarus. I'm with an organization called Organized Florida, 5012 Sunridge Palms Drive, Tampa 33617. My speech that I will say today, I'm paraphrasing Mayor Mitch Landrieu of New Orleans. They just took down their Confederate monument a couple months ago. Also, I'm speaking in support of taking down this racist monument. Thank you. Paraphrasing Mitch, the soul of our beloved city is deeply rooted in a rich history, for both good and for ill. It is a history that holds in its heart the stories of Native Americans, Hernando de Soto, the Italians, the Irish, the Cubans, and the Puerto Ricans, the South and Central Americans, the Syrian refugees, and so many more. Tampa is truly a city of many nations, a melting pot, a bubbling cauldron of many cultures, and Floridians, in the face of a nation that calls us all kinds of names, are fiercely proud of where we are from. But there are truths about our city and our roots that we must confront. Florida had more lynchings per capita than any other state in the Union, and we are the home of the most recent lynching in the United States as well. On a hot summer day in July of 1935, as my grandparents walked this earth, Reuben Stacy, a 37-year-old black man, was hung from a tree on Old Davie Road in Fort Lauderdale, blood trickling down his body and dripping off his toes. I'm a fifth-generation native of Tampa, a descendant of Sicilian immigrants, and as my ancestors live and die here and helped to build the city, I'm a proud Floridian and Southerner. But the South is where hundreds of thousands of souls were bought, sold, and shipped off to lives of forced labor, of misery, of rape, of torture. So when people say to me that the monument in question represents history, what I just described is also history and the searing truth. So where are the monuments to Harriet Tubman, to Frederick Douglass, to Emmett Till? The history is clear. Confederate statues were not erected to honor Confederate soldiers, but as part of a movement which has become known as the cult of a lost cause, a cult of misinformation. The cult has one goal, through these monuments, to rewrite history and hide the truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rodriguez. Next, we have Russell Denton.
Yes, sir. I don't have anything written down. I'm a sixth generation Floridian. 3 of my family members were here for application form. I was taught to accept everybody for who they are. I was raised in a good Christian home. And I was also taught that the different subjects that we teach or have taught are important to the values and education of everybody. And when I hear family members of mine talking about how history is not even being taught like it used to be, and sometimes not even taught at all, I think it's disgraceful. I used to play Trivial Pursuit with my family. My mom's best thing is to sit down and watch Jeopardy. Now this might seem immaterial to anybody. Might be important to somebody. I don't know. But that's not what's important. What's important is that we all need to be able to understand that history is important. And while this young lady here is holding a sign, may I? Talking about the Jews. Okay?
We're going to need you to stay close to the microphone. So
Okay.
thank you.
Talking about the Jews. I'm sorry. I was sitting in line when I came to come in here. And I heard a gentleman, there's no names, no need to finger point.
gentleman behind me made a comment about, I don't want to sit with those Confederates. And I asked him politely, I said, well, what do you mean by those Confederates? He says, well, I was born and raised here, but you know, all the Confederates I knew were snaggletooth.
Thank you, sir. That
Please
concludes
keep the
your 2
memorial.
minutes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Devon Chivas, or Devin Chivas.
Hello, County Commissioner. My name is Devin Cheese. I live at 5510 North Himes Avenue, and I'm speaking in favor of removing the statue that's currently located at the Hillsborough County Courthouse. I want to start off with a quote, and it was mentioned before, and you have to bear with me because I'm quite literally like full with emotion right now. So it says, "The South stands ready to welcome all good citizens who seek to make their homes within her borders. But the South detests and despises all, and matters not from whence they came from, who in any manner encourages social equality with an ignorant and inferior race." Now, I just heard a gentleman before me come up and say that all lives matter. I don't understand how this quote that was spoken by the state attorney at the time, Herbert Phillips, who was a keynote speaker for when that monument was made in dedication. I don't understand how you can sit here and say that all lives matter, and when that is literally in the dedication to that monument. At the end of the day, the Confederacy fought for the wrong side. We do not erect monuments in favor of those who fought on the wrong side. As this lady's sign says, we don't have statues to Hitler. In fact, in Germany, you can't even fly the Nazi flag. We don't erect monuments to Saddam Hussein. In fact, when we won the war in Iraq, we tore down his statue because we knew it was wrong and it was on the wrong side of history. So I'm all about preserving and things like that, but you don't need a monument on the courthouse property. You don't need a monument on public property to maintain history. And I'm quite literally like beside myself because I'm hearing all of these things, and as a 27-year-old black woman living in Hillsborough County, I'm literally having to sit here and say that my life matters when this very statement says something absolutely different. It's enraging to me. This is supposed to be a place where millennials can come and build a life, and I'm seeing that we're holding on to white supremacy by any means necessary, and it's very upsetting, and I just want the truth to be heard. We do not need this statue on public property. We do not need this statue to preserve history. We know our history. We're still healing from our history. We're still trying to get right. So let's take it.
Andy Strickland, and I'm going to ask Phil Walters, Randy Hinkle, and Gail Crosby to be ready next.
Good morning, Andy Strickland. Oh my goodness, all that emotion. That's what liberalism is, emotion. All right? I'm going to give you some quotes, and you tell me where these quotes come from. There must be a position, superior and inferior. I, as much as any other man, am in favor of having a superior position assigned to the white race. I will say then, I am not, nor have ever been, in favor of bringing about any social and political equality of the white and black races. I have no purpose, directly or indirectly, to interfere with the institution of slavery in the state where it exists. I believe I have no lawful right to do so, and I have no inclination to do so. Well, who said that? Who said that? Abraham Lincoln. So, when are we going to remove Abraham Lincoln's memorial? Is he next? You know, the liberal previously said, he quoted President Reagan. Well, yeah, President Reagan also said that the trouble with our liberal friends, it's not that they're ignorant, because they know so much that isn't true. So, if you're in favor of removing that monument from that courthouse, why don't you go ahead and remove that chair from this chamber, because it represents the same thing. Sacrifice. Sacrifice for this country. One veterans monument is the same as another. Don't let the left fool you with their emotions and their misquotes and their, oh, some old lady assaulted me. Give me a break. You know, it's amazing. I feel sorry for our liberal friends. They see race and racism everywhere, from Skittles to global warming to snow to coffee. The Republican Party Regardless of what you vote here today,
Thank you. Thank you very
the
much.
left will always say
Thank you.
that the Republican Party is a racist
Sir.
party.
Sir, your time is up. Thank you. Next speaker. Again, as we said before, let's maintain decorum in the chamber. Next speaker is Phil Walters, and then Randy Hinkle, Gail Crosby. And please recognize yourself.
Yes, Phil Walters, 16147 Ravendale Drive, Tampa. Good morning, commissioners. You know, I think you know my position on this, but let me just add, you know, I heard treason earlier, I heard hate, heard evil, heard racist. For the first 86, 87 years prior to the war between the states, under the American flag, what existed? Slavery. Did it exist just in the southern states? No. Did New England folks, known as Yankees, make a lot of money from slavery? Yes. Who else made a lot of money from slavery? How did it start? Let's go back to the African kings, the war.